Inside Foos presents FoosTalk Live.
And I'm dressed to the nines in a tuxedo. I have laid out the red carpet here in the Inside Foos studios.
I dig it.
And I'm ready for tonight's exciting show, Tom.
Yeah, this is black tie event, man. This is all the enchiladas right here in one plate. And of course, what would the year 2022 be without our own agent provocateur, our dumpster fire master, Mark Torres. Mark, hello.
Man, who started that fire in a dumpster? Yeah.
Tom, you said enchilada.
Thank you.
Is a flippin' reminder that you're the whitest human being I've ever personally known.
It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live. Coming to you live from the studios of Inside Foos, it's the 92nd episode of FoosTalk Live. Brought to you by InsideFoos.com. Offering monthly subscriptions with access to some of the most exciting matches ever recorded, plus live tournaments, pre- and post-show analysis, interviews, and original programming. Sign up now at InsideFoos.com. Also brought to you by ProtectoFlex, the world's premier foosball safety accessory. Go to protecto-flex.com. Also brought to you by Rod Lock. Practice more, reach less. The best practice tool in foosball. Visit rod-lock.com. Also brought to you by 518 Prints, one of the best printers of promotional items and foosball apparel. Visit 518prints.com. Also brought to you by Foosballers, the movie. This Joe Hesslinger foosball documentary is now available as a worldwide download at foosballersthemovie.com. Also brought to you by USTSO, helping to usher in a new era of competitive foosball. Become a member at usafoosball.com. And brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball through school systems all over the United States. Make a donation today at foosballclubsusa.com. Well, here we are, the second show of 2022. I'm Tom Robinson. Thanks for joining us tonight. Yes, episode 92 of FoosTalk Live. And of course, conversation about foosball is always a whole lot better when you have someone else to share it with, such as the greatest play-by-play announcer in the sport of foosball, which would be Jim Stevens. Hello, Jim.
Tom Robinson, how are you this week? Great to hear your voice. Always great to hear that beautiful FM radio voice that you do possess. And 92 shows. How about that?
Oh, sure.
And hi, everybody, and Happy New Year again. We're a good solid week into this, what we hope is a better year than last, and the year before.
Yeah.
But lots of exciting things that still to come in the way of in the world of foosball, Tom.
Yeah, no, it's. I think it's going to be. How do we say this after all this excitement we've had from the top 50? I guess you could call this making amends. Or, I don't know, the kind of things we're going to be talking about tonight really stem from all the conversation and debate. And,
it does. Yeah, it's sort of the residual effect of this last 5 weeks when we have put together this top 50 list and kind of ridden a roller coaster of, is this right? Is this truly a top 50? And of course, how difficult it is to put something like this together, and all the different feedback we've had, and certainly more over the last week, which we will discuss tonight. But it's been a tremendous project. And anytime, and I've said this, I think, every week, but anytime you can stimulate the kind of conversation and response and argument and debate and speculation and all the different things, all coming from players from different eras and some of those players from way back, right, from the 70s. And certainly it's been, and I'm sure Mark and Adam would agree, it's been a really rewarding project for all of us, and just fascinating to watch how it all unfolded.
This shows the pure passion that exists in this sport. People just, they have their place and they're going to stick to it, and that's that, Hey, Jim, I just have to say at this point, for the year 2022, I think I've already succeeded in insulting Mark. So I really feel like I've got to make amends. So I've taken some time this week to do some research and actually hire a person that will help us with tonight's introduction for Mark. So if you'll only stand by for 2 seconds.
Sé que el gurú del agente provocador de los adolescentes inactivos en ayunas y el campeón mundial amateur de The Windy City es Mark Torres.
Mark, are you there?
Wow, Tom. Hey, there's nothing more appropriate than hiring a Mexican person to introduce me. Listen, dude, can I order a margarita with my enchilada? You mind dude, if you think for a second this is going to be some apologetic wavering thing, dude, you're high. You're high as a kite, man. You saw, like, what I say here, okay? You know, it's a great Sean Connery. He said the penis is mightier than the sword. Ooh, and I'll tell you right now.
Ooh.
I will tell you right now. No. What I say here is archived for all time. And if there's a historical record, it exists here. And whatever anyone else says is trash. So thank you.
Well,
we're in for a good show tonight, folks.
Hang on. I just wanted to extend thanks to Rosa for providing the translation tonight.
Gracias, Rosa.
Yes, and she has something else to say to you, Mark.
Mark Torres es muy guapo.
God. I'm going to sue
Mark
you.
Torres tiene un ego enorme. Mark Torres es un mi asterisco RDO.
Enough, Rosa. That's it. That's enough.
That's hot. I don't know. That simultaneously offended me. It makes me want to sue you and turn me on. So all of it. Wow. So good. I don't know what to do right now.
I can't wait to what you have for Adam's introduction tonight, Tom.
Well, Adam, of course, he and I and Noah Rosenstein we had just had a blast last night at the 716 remote play-by-play. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Although there was some internet connection issues, but we made the most of it. But
it was Buffalo after all, right?
Yes, exactly.
And there was a J.C. Penney in the background,
right? In a mall.
Was it really?
Penny.
Yeah, it was really. It was in a mall, and it was intense. So it really was more of a FoosTalk Live pre-show was what it felt like.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun, and it's always good to see the hands and maybe the bill of a hat of one person, because we had some landscape versus portrait issues. But it was fun.
It was great times. Yeah. It was good times. And so Adam needs no introduction, at least not translated.
All right.
So
thank you.
Best hair in the whole
best
room.
hair, yes.
Nobody, that's something, we've talked about it. Maybe we need to start doing video again of the show, because I don't think anyone knows what Adam looks like, do they? Adam, do you have people walk up to you at tournaments and say, "Hey, you're Adam Gilson, aren't you, from FoosTalk Live? I love your work." Do you ever have anyone come up and say that?
I say, "Hey, get the hell out of the way," But that's usually from Mark, so I don't know.
It's just Google Eraserhead. Google Eraserhead.
I don't think that's true.
Come on.
I don't think that's true.
David Lynch, Eraserhead? Come on.
The main guy. But anyway.
Jeez.
Love David Lynch.
Yes.
Guys, we're here. We are first week of January or so, with lots of great stuff coming up, lots of events starting to get underway as we move into 2022. At least we hope so. But of course, the tour kickoff coming up here in a couple of weeks in Lexington, Kentucky. I guess 3 weeks from this weekend. Always a great event there, hosted by IFP and Mary Moore. Other events, of course, and then the Thunderdome Limited event, February 18th through 20th in Pompano Beach, Florida, which we are really excited about. And I know, Mark, this is kind of your baby. You kind of created this based on some things you had done in the past, and we're going to have some guests tonight to talk more about that as well, aren't we?
Yeah, let me be brief, because we're going to get back to it when Luke and Tommy Brewer join us. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting genesis from this tournament, and I spoke to before it, so I don't want to be redundant about it. Maybe those of you haven't heard about it, but 18 years ago, gosh, you're like 20 now, because it was designed in 2002. The whole tournament design is identifying who's the best overall competitor in a field of competitors, and making everyone play in an intensely competitive environment. And the other thing that was happening that was big in the late 90s that I was not a fan of at all was splitting. The Masters and Pros would split. They'd split at fifth place.
Really?
And someone would go up. Yeah, they did all the time. It was an epidemic. It was about money and covering expenses and who was your best bet. And it hurt the sport in a lot of ways. I don't think the fans always knew that it was happening. And then you'd get faux finals. You get like fake events, like fake. Jim knows all about it. We'll leave it at that. Point being, I create a tournament you cannot split. You cannot. When I get 32 Masters or 64 Masters, whatever it is, when we do the Pro Master version, I promise you, these guys could pull their hair out. They will not know who's going to win this event until the last match is played. Cool. It is worthless to try to split my event. We would never expect that in this no pro version, but it's going to be an intensely competitive event that goes down to probably the very last match on the very last day is going to decide who wins the big prize.
That's awesome.
Super cool.
This will be really exciting, and especially the play-by-play. I think this is going to be an awesome event to watch.
Well, the A team's going to be there. Both, all three of us, Adam and Mark and I, are all going to be there to bring you all the action. Of course, as Mark said, this is not the Pro Master version. This is the non-pro version of this, which I think almost is going to be at least equally exciting. I mean, there are a lot of players who can win. It's going to be super intense. These players are going to be nervous. There's a lot at stake. It's a lot of money in a really first-class environment. With Mark and Adam and I talking about them, it's going to be super. Can't wait. Can't wait for that. Can't wait for the warm weather.
Let me just touch on that, because Jim said something very, very important. The Masters and the pros are used to playing for a lot of money. Yeah. A lot of the gentlemen and women, by the way, and there's quite a few high-level women entering this tournament. They are not used to playing for this type of money, and it's very, very character exposing. People find out where their level of stress is and where their level of stress management is. It may become more apparent later in the event, but if they're not aware of it early on, they will be in possession. Every single person will be in possession of a ball that means between $1,000 and $4,000 for themselves, but absolutely for someone else in the event. I'm talking about a possession, a match ball possession. That's the difference between someone making $4,000 or not. Everyone will be in that situation. Wow. So it's really super stressful, exciting that way.
And just to speak to that point, Mark, I have experienced this format, the King of the Hill, the baseline of where this came from back in 2003, and
won it.
I won it, and I remember those points, those possessions, and thinking, this isn't a $20 DYP. This is for the whole enchilada, and it is, those kind of things.
Thank you, Adam.
What? You didn't give me an intro, so I'm upset. But anyways, joking aside, though, it's serious. This is an intensity. There was no way. The second I heard you all were doing this, I was like, I had to go book my flight. I'm like, I don't even care if Inside Foos is there. I'm just going to go there and just talk about it while I'm watching it, because this is going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be super cool.
Just sit at the bar and just talk about it, right?
Oh, you know how I do.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I know if I were there, what I'd be doing.
What Jim and I like to do right about this time is to reveal our favorite IPA.
So, Jim, pray tell, what have you?
Tom, by the way, that segue goes into your top 5 best segues ever.
That was so good.
FoosTalk Live.
That was so good.
I'm drinking something different. I'm drinking something out of Mark's current hometown of Chicago, Illinois, from Half Acre Brewery. This one is called, it's really an interesting can as well. It's a tall can. It's called Alive in Its Jaws. Yes, Alive in Its Jaws out of Half Acre Brewery. It's a double dry hop, double India Pale Ale, coming in at 8.5%. And off the top of my head, I'm going to read you a description. A bold in every dimension. Alive in Its Jaws elevates a super cast of Nelson, Sauvignon, Galaxy, Citra, and Sabro hops upon a Tempur-Pedic malt base.
Tempur-Pedic?
Yeah, you like that?
Is that a
This 8.5% double dry hop, double India Pale Ale is a monthly specialty beer. Meaning they only put this out during the winter. And it's, let me have a taste. It's good. It was not cheap. It has a tremendous can. It has a picture of a wolf biting a poisonous snake of some sort.
Love it.
Here we go. Oh, my. That literally is the first taste I've had of this.
Oh, my.
Oh, my. Wow.
8.5.
Wow, that is a unique double IPA, double hopped, which gives it this extra hoppiness to it. Oh, my gosh. That is really good. That is a top 10, probably all-time beer that I've ever had.
That's great. Wow.
Good on you guys. A Half Acre Brewery.
Yeah. And whose job is it tonight to keep Jim awake? That's what I want to know. So Adam,
it's double IPA.
Adam, what, pray tell, are you partaking of?
Well, I'll tell you that. So the family and I went to the Santa Barbara Zoo. And if you're ever in Southern California or in Santa Barbara, you have to go to the zoo. Anybody out there? Probably one of the most beautiful views from any zoo in the world.
Cool.
But they just opened an Australian walkabout exhibit. And in commemoration of that, they had the Ventura Coast Brewing Company, a place right down the street from my house, actually, had a limited edition, walkabout edition zoo brew. And then this is their Kanga brew, IPA, and I don't know. There's no description. There's nothing. The label is on this, and it's kind of coming off. It's not an actual printed can, so I don't know if this is. I don't know if beer drinking has the equivalent of an own goal, but I'm hoping this isn't one of them. But I have no idea what this is going to be like.
That's one of your top 5 IPA tie-ins as well. Go to the zoo and then drink a zoo beer. Brilliantly done, Adam.
Ooh.
Thank you. Hey, it isn't that bad.
It's not bad.
No, it isn't. You've all been on this trail of mediocrity with me for the last
for sure.
Trail of mediocrity. Oh boy.
It's almost like a hazy, but it's not labeled as one. But it's nice.
Congratulations, Adam. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on this journey with me.
Okay, you're quite welcome.
And Tom, I think your local ale store is really eclectic because you do come with some interesting stuff. What do you got tonight?
Well, tonight it's actually not from the Mercantile, but this one comes from Chicago, Illinois, the Windy City, the home of, you know who. Anyway, this one is called Ninja versus Unicorn, double IPA. Pipeworks Brewing from Chicago, 8% by volume, and the can artwork is phenomenal. There's a ninja and there's a unicorn. Jason Burke is the artist here, and I do want to give you a brief explanation of this one. Ninja versus Unicorn celebrates the epic battle between two of the biggest hopheads of lore. Brewed with over 5 pounds of hops per barrel, this unfiltered double IPA is sure to please the most discerning hop lover. Whether you're rooting for the mythical horned horse or the deadly assassin of the East, we hope you'll enjoy Ninja versus Unicorn.
Oh my gosh, that was spectacular. Can you read the phone book for us, please?
Here we go. Oh, look out. Oh, that's rather nice. I like that. I'll take the unicorn, actually.
Of course you would.
I'm more of a mermaid guy.
I don't know.
Whoa.
Well, a ninja would wreck a flipping unicorn. Okay, flaming arrows.
Way,
give me a break.
Where's this from? Is this Appropriation Brewery? I'm confused.
It's Pipeworks Brewery.
Eastern.
You're on a roll, dude.
In Chicago.
You're on a roll.
Well, Mark
hired a Latina to introduce me, and then you got someone said landscaping. I think it was Adam. He was really trying to offend me.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
No.
You were talking about the phone, and you said landscaper. So listen, Tempur-Pedic, by the way, is a mattress word, Jim. Yes. I don't know what the hell that's all about.
I know.
I'm drinking water. I don't give myself permission to drink on Sundays with an IPA. I drink water, and I'm loving it. It's so tasty. Let's toast somebody. Who are we toasting?
We are toasting the honor group of the week, and that honor group of the week is the East Coast Foosball Players. It's the 508 Foosball. They present the next foosball tourney on January 15th at Ryan Sports Pub and Billiards, New Bedford, Massachusetts. Thanks to Matt Contoy, who's the organizer. Yeah, New Bedford. It should be a wicked good one. At Ryan's Billiards. Yeah, looking forward to that. It's of course on the weekend I've got to work. But, that's all right, guys. Have your tournament.
I love it. Anyway. I love these kinds of tournaments. The tournaments held at the local pool hall or the mall, which I love mall tournaments.
Right.
But I really love that kind of a tournament. And I've talked about it before in the show, whether it's a pool hall, whether it's a mall, whether it's, some 1980s bar or whatever. I love those kinds of tournaments.
80s bar.
Because that's kind of what I grew up with.
Oh, yeah. No, this is how foosball was born, in places like that. So, yeah absolutely. And so cheers to Matt Contoy and the guys.
Cheers to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Wow. Good stuff. The unicorn side of this is really pretty remarkable.
There's a unicorn.
I don't know. I'm not following. Is there a side?
Yeah.
Are there sides to it? Or is it like half and half?
It's a split can. You got a unicorn on one side and the ninja on the other, and it's
really?
Oh yeah.
You got to post a picture of this. This is mind blowing.
I shall, and the artwork is
they're so creative these days. These craft brewers, with their beers and with their artwork, it's remarkable, and it's a great time to be a beer fan. No doubt about it.
Oh man, there's so much.
Can you just drink from one side?
Well, no, nothing like that. It's consumed together, but there's still two halves in there. So.
And what's scary and really fun is that we are going to be in a brewery for this tournament, for the Thunderdome Limited Tournament down in Pompano Beach, Florida,
right.
February 18th through 20th. We are going to be in a brewery all weekend long.
Could be dangerous.
I want to forewarn you guys. This is not a joke, and we're going to bring on Luke and Tom in a second.
Yeah.
There's no conflicts in this tournament. There
Yeah.
might be a
No.
slowdown briefly when we get to like final 8 teams, but we're going to rip through that. There's like we set up, when I did it, I did 5 minutes. Adam will remember, I did 5 minutes or you lost your first game. No one lost a game because everyone started the match in 5 minutes. So if we're going to drink, you got to drink fast because we will be in that booth doing commentary the whole time.
Yes, we will. Yeah, and that's what's neat about this format is that that you really, there are no conflicts, of course, and there's a number of tables that work out perfectly. Singles, you'll have to have a couple of rounds, but other than that, it's going to be smooth. It's going to be well run. It's going to be the way that tournaments should be.
Well, before we bring on our guests, let's take a look back in history with great moments in foosball history. This is a FoosTalk Live Flashback.
Just missed the hole. Loffredo fires one on goal. The rebound carries to the 5 of Trevor Park. It's still 3-2 in favor of Collignon and Loffredo. Park along the wall. He'll set it up shooting against Todd Loffredo from front pin position. Trevor Park chokes it home to the near side. It's 3-3. True classic match unfolding.
Could we have a match ball set as we all hoping for?
Very Collignon looking to advance it to his 3, and he does so along the wall. All tied up at 3 here in the 5th game.
Good catch by Federico right there. Very important for him to take his time.
And Collignon converts it. Set point for Collignon and Loffredo. They were staring a World Championship point in the face in that 4th game. Collignon made that big shot. They've come back to take the lead here 4-3 in the 5th. Look to take it to a second set if they can. Pass attempt by Park, knocked down, angled right towards the goal, retrieved nicely by Cartwright.
Federico is good at just flipping a switch and taking it to another level. It's unbelievable how this guy plays.
Well, now Trevor right there, although he took his time ticking it back and forth on the 5-0.
And Lewis Cartwright again responding, able to stroke that one home. It's World Championship point once again for Park and Cartwright. Collignon and Loffredo need this point to stay alive. If Park and Cartwright score it, they're the champs.
A lot of pressure. This is a big-time pressure point right here.
Well, we've seen Collignon in this situation before. He drops the ball down to his 5. Two-handed defense put forth by Trevor Park, but to no avail. As Collignon goes along that wall, they'll set it up looking to take it to a second set. Frederic Collignon strokes it home to the near side. In a classic 5-game opening set, Frederic Collignon win 3-2, and we are indeed going to a second set. I don't think anybody has a problem with that.
Wow, what a match, guys. It's just I was saying, what a wonderful match. Match ball, one ball for it all. It doesn't get any better than this.
Listen in next time for another great moment in foosball history. It's FoosTalk Live Flashback.
And that was the year 2000, correct, Jim?
It was, and there's a reason that I chose this as our flashback tonight, okay? That was the first set of the Open Doubles Final back in 2000, the first time that Frederic Collignon and Todd Loffredo faced off against Trevor Park and Lewis Cartwright. In the 4th game, it goes to 4-4. In other words, Park and Cartwright have a championship point. If they score that ball, they win the title. Unfortunately for them, no one touches the ball at 4-4 except Frederic Collignon, who scores it to take it to a 5th game. In the 5th game, as you heard, they tied up. Lewis Cartwright hits a big pull shot from goal, and Lewis that year might have scored 6 or 7 in the finals. That's how good he was offensively.
Wow.
But again, at 4-4, nobody touches the ball but Frederic Collignon. Okay, so that ended up being their 3rd consecutive Open Doubles Championship, 3rd of what would be 5 in a row. But think about this, guys, right? Now, we just put together our top 50 list. If somehow Trevor Park gets that ball, makes a steal, grabs it on the 5, passes it through, and scores it to win that championship. And literally, we're talking about one ball, one play, right? How do we view Trevor Park in retrospect? Winning that year. And how does that elevate Lewis Cartwright? Lewis Cartwright, if they get that ball in the 4th game or get that ball in the 5th game or the next year in 2001, when both final sets went down to the final ball, if they get one of those to win a championship, how much higher is Lewis Cartwright on our list? Trevor Park undoubtedly is in the top 50, right? If they win in 2000 or in 2001. So I guess my point is, that's foosball. That's sports, right?
Yeah.
That things can come down to just the narrowest margins. If you score here, this happens. If you don't, this happens. And really to illustrate that, I chose this tonight to show you that Trevor Park scores it, Lewis Cartwright scores that. We look at them completely differently. Our top 50 is configured differently, because no doubt Trevor's in there. But I thought it was fascinating to look back at that and kind of think about the what ifs of Trevor Park and Lewis Cartwright.
That's a lot of fun. Absolutely.
It came up last week, Jim, and we we're talking about Fred, and how many times have we seen him when no one else had an opportunity?
Yeah.
And how critical that is in all sports, but especially a sport like foosball. And it's kind of a misnomer. It's because foosball is a game of millimeters or micrometers. I don't know what the measurement is, because you could rim the corner of a wall, which is basically too perfect of a shot, and it hits both walls and comes out. That's just a minor difference in execution, and it's a plus or minus 1 point. And we see Fred do it over and over and over, to the point where we took it for granted. We assumed he was going to pass and score. We assumed that once he had a 1-0 lead, he was going to have a possession on 4-4 and he was going to beat you. And I don't want to exaggerate the percentage of times it just came true. He had the last possession, he passed and scored, he won. And the vast majority of masters cannot do that. They can't. The stress builds
even
too high.
Masters, Masters. That's right. Yeah.
Right. So anyway,
and Fred was the best we've ever seen at it. No question about it. Obviously, Todd and Tony and Ryan and these guys certainly have put away their share of matches, but nobody did it the way Fred did. And again, nobody touches the ball. If he has it in those situations, we did. We got to where we took it for granted, and for good reason, because it happened more often than not.
Right.
This is something we'll be discussing quite a bit, I think, this evening, especially during our Ask Me Anything feature. But before we get there, we got to talk Thunderdome, because that is really where it's at, guys. That's
Thunderdome.
That's the next big event on the docket. So let's bring on right now from Florida. It's Luke Watson and Tommy Brewer putting on this huge event. Guys, welcome to FoosTalk Live.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Hey, guys.
Hear us okay?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Hear you great. Yeah.
Loud and clear.
I was a little uncomfortable with how you guys described the tournament as Mark's baby.
Yeah, for real.
I do not want the idea of me having Mark's baby.
Own
at
mind.
all.
We don't want to have.
Oh, you are. You are. I put it in you, and it's coming out.
Yeah, you know what? No, I think it's more like Tommy and Luke are going to deliver Mark's baby.
Oh, boy.
For sure.
I didn't sign up for this. What's going on?
It came out my nose.
Whoa. That's what. Okay.
Tommy and I are very progressive, and we're very close. We're really good friends, but we're not ready for Mark's baby yet.
No. That's pretty common these days. Hey guys, let me take control of the show quick. As this idea has grown, right? You know what big fans I am of both you guys, Tommy and Luke, and of course of Mark. And Mark's been talking about this kind of event, an Ironman type of event for a couple of years now, based on what he did in the early 2000s. And it's a captivating idea, no question about it. And then to have you guys involved, my excitement level, I'm as excited about this tournament as I've been about any tournament in recent years, because I personally think the action is going to be incredible. Maybe you're not going to get, that A+ style of play that you get from Ryan Moore, Tony Spreadham, and Todd Loffredo, the big guys. It's still going to be really good. And it's going to be incredibly, it's going to be incredibly competitive, right? Mm-hmm. In a great professional environment with a format that we love. And I can't wait. And how excited were you? I know when Mark approached you guys about this and about his idea, you guys were on board immediately. In fact, I know it was a kind of a collaboration of ideas that really formulated this. But how excited were you to hear about something that's a little bit outside the box, right? When this idea first kind of germinated.
We were super excited. I mean, Mark, kind of pitched us the idea while we were still planning the beatdown, and we're like, Mark, calm down, one tournament at a time.
Yeah, right.
And but no, I mean, like I hope we identify the next Tony Spreadham. This is the kind of event that younger players and newer players will excel at.
Adam, go ahead. Go ahead. Talk.
No, sorry. I was just Mark touched upon this earlier, but what's going to be happening at this tournament is these folks have played in tournaments where there was a lot of money on the line, but they never had any reasonable chance of winning. You could walk away from this tournament with quite a lot of money, and these balls are going to be the difference of a couple $100 to $1,000, couple $1,000, which is incredible in its own right. And I played in the King of the Hill, the earlier version of this years ago, and I remember winning more that weekend than I did the following year on tour.
Yeah.
And that's something that contextually you don't really think about till later. But I feel like, especially now when we're always talking about money and stuff, there's going to be a level of intensity and pressure at this event that even if they're not playing, like, you know, Jim says, the A+ Ryan Moores, you're going to see stuff on the table that you're going to be able to feel through the live stream when we're watching it. And I am pumped for this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty dramatic. I mean, so I can speak from personal experience to getting nervous while playing, right? Like I've got a couple amateur titles, so I've played on table one, and even that feels nervous, right? Like I'm playing for a plaque, and you know, $100 or so, and like I can remember feeling petrified, you know, during a timeout where I'm like, okay, let me try to refocus and stuff. If I'm playing for a couple $1,000s, I don't know what I might go insane. Like you guys might have to tie me down or tranquilize me. I might just cry.
So you got nervous because you were excited about that Lycron jacket?
I like the jackets. The jackets are cool. They hang up. They're useless in Florida. Right? Yeah. They are all on my wall. But like, yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of like just the drama and the pressure and seeing how people handle it. It's going to be fun for me to just kind of people watch and, you know, see who cracks.
Yeah, some of our most fun nights on our locals that we have here. I don't tour a lot. I do Florida States, but I mean, so Tommy and Craig Simpson and some of our better players, you know, who do tour when they're gone off playing Worlds or playing in Louisiana or something, we have a blast. You know, and it's because you really feel like, you know, that week at the tournament it's anybody's game, and that's the kind of feeling I feel like, you know, that these players are going to have is, oh man, I'm not gonna draw Tony Spearman, you know, like, or I'm not gonna get crushed by these two pro masters. Is, you know, I can compete at all levels in this tournament.
And for us, there's no way to predict who is actually going to come out on top. I mean, it's just not possible. There are a lot of unknowns, so it's anybody's game. That's really cool.
Yeah,
one of the differences.
Mark's going to do odds on everybody. So
well, so here's one of the differences. When I did this in 2003, everything was pencil and paper. All of it was pencil and paper, and I had people double checking everything to make sure. We're going to be able to actually digitize and show people where their standings are round to round. And then you look up and say, okay, I'm in striking distance. And you're in striking distance no matter what after every round, but you're going to be able to see all the ties, and you'll be like, okay, that's who I'm fighting. I'm playing against that person. I need that person to lose. I need to, like, you know, that person over there. All these matches matter. It all matters, and the stress just compounds. I'll say this too. By now, everybody has probably seen the video I cut. And it has Robert Mars, Adrian Zamora, Tommy Atkinson, Lewis Cartwright, and Adam in it. And to a man, when I talked to them, they all said, when are you doing the Iron Man again, which is the Pro Master version of this? There's no higher advocacy or marketing than a bunch of masters who have played events all over the world for decades saying, man, I can't wait for you to do. One of the big reasons they jumped to do this advertisement is because they're like waiting for us to pull off the master version. They're like dying. They're chomping at the bit. And they're willing to pay $700 each to play an event, just to compete. And this is the way you got to look at it. And you're getting a first taste of it. Luke and Tommy and your South Florida Foosball Club are going to be the benefactors of this. But if you've ever seen a high stakes poker game and on television where there's 9 people at a table and they all got $1 million in front of them, and you walk up to that table, that's what it's like. It's like walking up to a table with Phil Ivey and, you know, Doyle Brunson and whoever, and you guys are just laying it on the line and going at it. And this is the last part I'll say is there's a Calcutta. I should have a question in here. You guys are guests.
No, by the way, I'm just listening. This is fantastic. Yeah, keep going, Mark.
We're going to do a Calcutta. Are those people on Wikipedia? Can you look them up? Yeah.
There's a Calcutta. Yeah, they're poker players. They're poker players. There's a Calcutta, and Adam will remember this very, very well because I think Dan Tybel bought you. So we're going to auction all 64 players will get auctioned off for a dollar amount, and typically higher level players get auctioned off for more. Like some of the high level experts like Chris Carson, Liz Hill that are playing, but someone is going to walk away with a ton of money. I mean, there's going to be a lot on the line. It's all going to play out. It's going to be really dramatic. People are going to people are going to be shaking. They're going to be shaking trying to do a pull shot or a rollover. It's going to be very exciting.
Our guest tonight, Mark Torres.
Get rid of these guys. Get rid of these guys.
No,
I got an actual question.
Go, Jim.
Yeah, I
go.
think the uniqueness of it is a draw for us. Like, we're super happy to do something that's different, right? And like, foosball, I think, needs that. Right? It can be a bigger tent than it is. And so, like, I hope that other people do this and similar things so I can go to them, right? Like, maybe it'll break up the paradigm a little bit of what a tournament should look like or what it should consist of. And we'll get a more interesting variety of things out there.
For sure. And I'm a big fan of this kind of format, as long as we also do one on the master level for sure. And also, Luke, I'm very happy to hear that you have more fun at tournaments when Tommy is out of town. That's what good friends are for, right? But the other thing about this format, it really tests you as a foosball player, right? You've got to be a good goalie. You've got to be a good forward. You got to be a good singles player. You know, it really is who is the most versatile player, who is the most skilled player, who's the most consistently skilled player. Address that, guys. Talk about that a little bit. And I don't know, are you guys going to both be playing in this event as well? But it really is a test of multiple skills on the foosball table, isn't it?
It's more than that, actually. So I'll be playing. Luke is going to be helping run things, but I'm definitely going to throw my hat
to.
But yeah, it's
don't throw your hat in there, please. Do not. No one wants to touch your hat.
I got a whole new hat. Oh, the hat! It's actually the same hat, but it's cleaner.
Oh, good.
Yeah. At any rate, no,
but I can smell it from here.
Yeah, I can smell it from here.
It is those things, but it's also a test of singles, goalie, forward, how well you adapt to your partner, right? Because there's a draw element. And it's a test of endurance, right? You're going to be playing a lot. Yeah. There's not going to be, colossal breaks. That's where things are going to go. You're going to finish a match, wait for all the other matches done, and then go on to the next one, right? So you're going to be playing a lot of foosball, right? So that's another thing that it's going to factor into who comes out on top. But yeah, I mean, there's something to say for well-roundedness, right? I can kind of guess if I look at the brackets, especially in like the expert and pro divisions, I can kind of guess who's going to do what depending on who the forward is and who the goalie is, right? But I've always thought that singles is the pure game, right? To test talent all around, but even that, not really, right? So I think this kind of mixes everything up enough so that we're going to know who the best all-around foosball player in the room is, right? Not the best forward or not the best person the person who's best at blocking, but who's the best player.
So I also have something to add there. I think this is a perfect format to be able to quantify who the top 50 foosball players are in the room.
Wow.
So no, we can solve that.
We can solve it. Yeah.
Well, we can make an infallible list.
Yeah. And then you just make something like that. And it's always fun when you have things that are indefinable, undefinable, redefinable. But speaking of something that can be defined, I was looking at your the flyer, and I see a sentence there that I almost gave me a heart attack. This tournament will have 0 conflicts. Could you explain that to the people out there who are chomping at the bit?
Yes. So, sorry, did you want to?
Yeah, go ahead. It's super simple. We have 64 players.
So 32 teams.
32 teams, 16 tables.
Right.
We can do math, even a simple division here. That means the number of tables equals the number of players playing in the 3 doubles events. Yeah. So you're always playing. That's it.
At least in doubles, right? Everyone can be playing at the same time. Singles is, double that, right? But that's still pretty good.
Or half that.
Yeah, you'll have to have 2 rounds, but that's fine. And, as someone who has experienced this Swiss format so many times, it really is important to have that right number of tables. And you guys have the perfect number of tables for this event. We're listening to, we're joined tonight by Tommy Brewer and Luke Watson, talking about the Thunderdome limited event, February 18th through 20th in Pompano Beach. And guys, let's, I know these other guys have questions. This will be my last one. Talk a little bit about the venue, about what support you've gotten from this brewery there in Pompano Beach, and how cool of a setting it's going to be.
26 Degree Brewery. If you've never seen it, just Google the brewery real quick this evening if you're, or whenever you listen to the podcast. So these guys are friends of Michael Schneider, who is our tournament director, our commissioner, a guy who doesn't even play foosball, but loves to come out and help us run the tournament, which is amazing. I mean, that's if every local could find their Michael Schneider, it would be a blessing. He will sit there and run the tournament, call matches, collect money, do the payouts.
Hates foosball.
Hates foosball. Refuses to play. Doesn't like anything competitive.
Really?
But he loves all of us and loves to hang out with us. So, but he's in marketing, and he knew these guys from a kickball team, and they decided to start a brewery. And the location they chose for their brewery was a abandoned Winn-Dixie. So in the South, Winn-Dixies are pretty big grocery stores. So you got all the room in the world in this big, beautiful brewery that we can stick foosball tables in. So a couple of years ago, we were looking to expand our tournament that we started in Lake Worth for some Southern players that were in Pompano Beach and Boca, and some coming up from Fort Lauderdale that were driving, 45 minutes to an hour to come play in Lake Worth. And so we talked to these guys and said, hey, we'd love to put a couple of tables in. I said, no problem. So we said, what's your slowest night? How can we help you? And they said Tuesday. So we found a person. Tommy got really lucky and found Charlotte Ellis just recently at that time, expert women's player had moved from Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, really good player, awesome player. And she agreed to run our Tuesday night tournaments there. So it was our first expansion as South Florida Foosball Club into 26 Degree Brewery, and it's worked out swimmingly. We picked up some new players from there.
Nice.
Like it's been an awesome experience.
And very good beer, lots of different kinds. I'm not even a huge craft beer fan. Like when I drink beer, I generally just go straight to Guinness, and then I regret my choice and order a Scotch instead. Right? Like
nice.
But they actually have beer that I enjoy drinking, which is a lot for craft brewery because apparently I'm picky. But yeah, it's great beer. There's good restaurants all around. It's not far from the beach. It's a cool area.
Yeah, who doesn't want to come to South Florida in February too?
Exactly.
Right. Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Jim, pack your shorts, and we promise a bicycle ride in the rain.
While we're on the topic of,
I've heard about
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, Jim. While we're on the topic of lady players, what's the turnout expected for the ladies for this tournament?
We have 3 teams already committed.
Nice.
That are all lady teams.
Cool.
Women, excuse me.
Yeah.
One of them was a Hall of Famer.
I think.
Oh, wait, was two of them? Are 2 of them Hall of Famers? Wait, is Maggie Strong still coming to the event?
Yep. Yeah. Maggie's coming. Maggie's playing with
world champion, not a Hall of Famer, but a world champ. Yep.
Yeah. Liz
playing
Hill's
with Liz Hill.
Oh, she's playing with Liz. They're playing together. Ooh.
No, Maggie's playing.
Not.
He was saying like with Liz Hill.
Oh, with Liz Hill. They're coming. Yeah.
Liz Hill's
one of them playing with Carla Wolverton.
Oh,
yeah. Maggie's nope.
No,
mixing.
I'm mixing. Sorry.
You're horrible, Luke. You're the worst.
There's one girl's playing with.
We don't have our list in front of us.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But there's women out there coming out to play, and guess what? They're going to come take some money from you guys because they're not there.
Dana Brewer. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Dana Brewer.
I've heard of her. The doctor.
Yeah.
But Liz Hill is coming to this event, and so this Calcutta, there's a couple people I'm buying, and Liz Hill is one of them. She's going to probably compete with me to own rights to herself in this Calcutta.
Nice.
Wow.
So,
Maggie's
I got a question for Adam.
By the way.
I got a question for Adam. Adam, this is rare air because you won this event, and it was no joke when you won it. It was a grinder. What kind of guidance do you have for them preparing for it? What should they be working on or looking at or doing or preparing for?
The players or Tommy? Okay.
The players.
Or Tommy. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's the what do the kids say? Straight dope.
Straight dope. You're a teacher, don't you know what they say?
I've got the TikToks. So here's on paper. On paper, this format favors the lowest rated best singles player with the best designated draw. On paper.
Oh,
it could go either way, but
that sounds like a lot of math.
It is a lot of math. But what I'm saying
that was Adam's formula. Yeah.
No, it is. But what I'm telling everybody is out there is you have to look at the strengths that you have and the weaknesses that you have. If your singles game sucks, you got to look at your singles game. I've already been in communication with 2 or 3 people that are going to this thing, and letting them know, like, this is how you're going to have the game plan for this, because it's going to come down to the singles. I'm just saying this right now. I think it's going to come down to the singles. The draws are the draws, and anything can happen in draws. But I really think if you've got a good BYP, if you bring your partner's team is solid, then it's going to come down to the singles, as long as you get a decent partner in the designated. That being said, for an event like this, with these 4 different categories, these 4 different events within the points race, you really need to look at your weaknesses wherever they are and work on them, because this event is gonna. It's not just like it's not an expert singles thing where you're just like trying to slog your way through. Every single facet of this event is challenging you, and this is why I'm a huge proponent of this format, because in one weekend, you're going to learn more about yourself. If you're listening, you're going to learn more about yourself as a foosball player than you will in an entire season on tour, because this is challenging in a way that none of that other stuff does.
Yeah.
My
and that's
my
something you have to think
weaknesses
about.
are glaring, so I really can't avoid them. I see them every day. So.
When Adam says, so I'll qualify one thing Adam says. The singles does matter, but no one who has ever won this event won the singles. They just won 2 or 3 rounds, maybe.
Yeah, you got to
They
get
never
up there.
won. Yeah, like the Lewis
What
won
did I get,
Ironman. He
second?
took second. Billy Pappas smashed Lewis Cartwright in the finals of the singles, and and Lewis won the whole thing. Lewis actually didn't win a single event, and he won the whole thing.
And see, and this is why I'm saying, because the singles event is because I didn't win singles. I think I got second in singles, right? I think I got to the finals, but that's all that happened. That's all that needed to happen. I got second, but then I won the whole thing, and that's why your singles game is so important, because so many players, I think, kind of slack on their singles game versus whatever position they prefer.
I am so impressed with Adam Gilson version 2003. I'm really impressed with your game from back then. This event, the other thing about it, obviously we've talked about the competitiveness, but you guys are also responsible for what is unanimously considered the most fun event of the year, and that is the Beach Down Beatdown. So obviously on one side you've got competitiveness and it's going to be nonstop competition. On the other hand, you guys like to make sure that people have fun at your tournaments, as evidenced by last June's Beatdown, when man, it was fun. And so that's another part of it, though, isn't it? For everybody thinking about coming down, obviously the competition is great, but so is the fun.
Yes. And actually, this will be a little bit different than the Beatdown, be different than a lot of other tournaments in that. So we do like to party. So we're going to end the tournament. Like, the tournament's not going to run very late. We're not going to have matches to 2:30 in the morning. We're going to end it at a reasonable hour.
11 p.m.
12 o'clock, yeah. And then we'll all go out and party after that. So there's going to be plenty of time for beatdown style shenanigans, but then, back to business the next day when you're on the table.
Yeah, can the Inside Foos live stream continue to the bar next door?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love it.
After hours.
We'll strap a GoPro to Mark
Guaranteed.
and live stream like a body cam the whole time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just real quick, I'm looking at the flyer again, and it says on Saturday that events continue at 3 p.m.
Yeah. Go to the beach, have lunch, wake up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like a vacation.
It's right by Fort Lauderdale, right? Like, if you're traveling from anywhere from north of Orlando, right? First of all, I'm sorry that you live there, right? Like, because it stinks. Where you are stinks.
I've been there.
Awful right now. Come down to where we are.
You've already had snow this year already.
Yeah, exactly. Come down to where we are on that Saturday. Go to Fort Lauderdale, hang out at the beach.
I'm pretty sure strip clubs open up at noon in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, so
and then come play foosball. But yeah, like, don't just come and play and leave.
Dude, we're gonna have margaritas, and we're gonna be sunburnt and passed out from heat exhaustion at like 2:30, and then we'll be ready. Like at 3 o'clock, we'll be ready, dude.
That's stroke amazing. At noon, and then back to it. It's actually not. You won't even get heat stroke here now. Perfect weather for the beach.
So, Mark, one thing we haven't talked about yet, and let me tee you up for a little diatribe here.
Yeah.
Can you hit on for the guys something you were instrumental in is the beginner rookie amateur prizes as well, because I think that's a pretty good sell as well.
Man, listen, man. Look,
I thought those were Mark.
Mark got all the.
Okay.
Mark got all the stuff.
Look, first of all, let me tell you something right now. you don't. I'm going to sell against the event for a second. If you're playing with scared money, don't play. If you're playing with scared money, don't play. You got to go in this thing thinking you can do well. I mean, there's 4 events that you could win money in, and there's the overall cash prize. If you think you're good enough to play in a draw your partner, you should play because there's enough money in the draw your partner to win all your money back. That's one point, but that leads into another point. There's a highest placing beginner, rookie, and amateur, $200 for the highest placing, and a Florida State package, and a Texas State package. It was like $500, $200 in cash. Maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe a little bit. Maybe it's like $430 or $440. I don't know what it is. It's between $400 and $500. And if you don't think you're going to be the best beginner there, if you don't think you can compete with the other beginners there, don't play. If you don't think you can compete with the other rookies there, don't play. But if you think you're good enough to be the best beginner, out of a handful of beginners, go take their money. Go take their money right out of their hands and slap them back into the cave they came in. That's the point. There's something for all 3 of those ranks to win, and it's plenty. It's plenty. It's worth every. If you want to be good at foosball, you want to have the experience, you want to compete at a high level against great players, you want an opportunity to feel that stress and feel like you're in a pit and be broadcast across 23 countries on Inside Foos with Jim Stevens commentating your matches and Tony Spritterman there as a consultant or like an analyst. You should play in this event, absolutely. And if you believe you could be the best rookie, amateur, or beginner, you got to play. You have to play this event. That's my pitch.
I'm
so fired up.
I'm fired up too, man. I can't wait.
I knew it.
Mark, I'll follow you anywhere. Let's go.
Yeah, I've got a message from a listener, someone listening live, who's that maybe the Calcutta should be opened up for bidding on a national level. The money could get huge. It could be like online gambling or whatever. But
I don't know what the rules on that are. But if anyone's like, it's not my idea. If it's illegal, it's not my idea. If it is legal, it's my idea. 100%.
I did want to mention for the rank prizes. I did want to make sure that we said thanks to Rob Cadle from Florida State Championship
and Steve Murray and Texas State Championships. Yes, all good. Rob Cadle, thank you. RK Tampa Foosball. We're going to send our love out there. We're streaming that tournament as well. And Steve Murray, Brittany Wicks, Jason Wicks, Texas State Championships for those packages. 3 of them on each side.
Cool.
Really grateful for that. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Well,
can't wait, guys. Looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us tonight and kind of really ramping up the excitement for this, what should be an outstanding event. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
You're welcome, Jim.
Calm down, Mark.
Yeah,
no, I can't. I can't. This water. What's in this water? What's the hell is
you don't think you're the best beginner? Kill yourself.
You care about your children.
You're not the best beginner in Florida. Stay home.
Wow.
Ooh. Ooh.
You're pissing me off, and I don't even know why.
Right?
I love it.
He's getting my blood up here. Dang.
This reverse psychology.
Mark the master of
understanding, guys.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that bicycle ride in the rain. That was actually one of the most memorable moments of my 2021 for sure.
I've only ever heard that story 5 times.
Is that it?
That in 3rd place in the flipping U.S. Open in 1964 or whatever that
82,
was.
dude. 82. Listen here, Mr. 1990 world champ.
Yeah.
Dude, that's iconic. That is iconic.
It's that iconic. You've been riding those coattails for like 38 years now, or however long that
It's
is.
hilarious, dude. I swear this is true. I talked to a Foozer last night from Chicago, and he said, "You're the 1990 amateur doubles world champion." That's branding, baby. That's branding.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. Here's the difference, Mark. 82 U.S. Open, I finished 3rd.
Oh God!
And I actually, the rest of my career has been pretty impressive. Now, 1990 world champion in amateur doubles. Where did you go from there?
Let me tell you what's impressive.
Where did you go from there?
Let me tell you what's impressive. I won 1990 at amateur doubles of the worlds, and look who I'm sitting with right now, talking to and engaging with. And I don't know why people listen to me. Why the hell does anybody listen to me?
I mean,
I know you guys are idiots. But let me tell you the most exciting thing that I just remembered right now. 3:00 on Saturday. Holy crap. We're going to get completely trashed. This is going to be awesome. Yeah. I forgot. We started at 3:00 on Saturday.
I just saw that right now.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
Dude, that's killer.
I'm at the beach. I'm at the beach all morning. No doubt about it.
I know.
Oh. Well,
by the way, with that little thing we just did was a 1-act play based on the comments from the Inside Foos TV thing. Facebook page when we asked people their opinion about the top 50 list.
Oh,
just thinking about our time in the past and remembering it through different lenses.
Hey, one last thing. Tommy Atkinson's showing up at this event with Kathy so far. Kathy Rich Atkinson, and he's going to go to town on this Calcutta. He's bringing it. Like we've already talked about it.
Sweet.
We have our own side thing going, man. He's going to lay it down.
Nice.
I'm going to lay it down. We're going to see where this money goes.
The number one fan in foosball history. Tommy
Oh, yeah.
Atkins.
He couldn't.
One of my favorites.
Sure.
Dude. It's like one of my
a well-rounded player in his own right.
He's always watching. Always.
He took third. He took
Really
third in the Ironman. It was number
Oh, he
one
did?
was Lewis, number 2 was Tony, and number 3 was Tommy. Yeah, he took third.
Wow.
Cool.
Yep.
Wow.
I don't even remember him being there. I don't remember much back then. But anyways.
So Tommy and Luke, thank you so much for joining us in FoosTalk Live. This has been a blast. Of course, it's just a sample of what's to come very soon with the Thunderdome. We are all looking forward to that event. It's going to be amazing. And of course,
anytime, Tom. Thanks for having us. We'll sign off now.
Awesome.
Bye, guys.
All right, guys.
See you guys.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's pretty intense to think about this kind of a format and how this is going to affect other tournaments across the country. Can't wait to see the results. And of course, you'll hear all about it right here at FoosTalk Live the day after. And as long as you guys are willing to still speak, I guess that's we'll find out what's going on.
Well, we're going to do a call-in, I'm assuming.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah. As long as you're still conscious.
I think you make a great point though, Tom, about how this can influence other tournaments, or at least influence the direction that we go on the American Tour moving forward, because it is going to be, again, thinking outside the box a little bit. It's going to be different. It's going to showcase this format, which we all love so much, and hopefully it will influence things in a very positive manner.
This is what I said to Tom when Tom and Noah and I were talking last night. This is an inflection point in foosball in the United States, in my opinion. And when I think it's going to be the most heavily covered through social media and everything else of any kind of Swiss format that in America.
Yeah, great point.
And it's going to be. I think when we're out there and we're doing our walkarounds and talking to people and being like, "What do you think?" And they're going to say, "I think I didn't have to get here till 3 p.m. and I don't have a conflict." And I think that's going to be huge. I'm just excited for it. It's just a no-brainer on so many levels.
It's a grand experiment, a grand laboratory, a great place to, great time of the year and a great location. So all of that.
I want to disclose something, you guys. I've been having conversations. I've had to have phone calls. I've been engaged. What this tournament is it is very, very disruptive. It's very disruptive in the business. That's a business term.
Disruptive.
That talks. Disruptive is a business term that describes basically when a novel approach upends the status quo.
Oh yes.
And I want to be reassuring at the same time, not dodge or navigate from the reality of it. There's always going to be a place for the Big Ten tournaments. I think they're crucial and necessary. Colorado State, Texas State, Tornado Championships, Hall of Fame Classic. There's always going to be a place for those tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
What this type of event does is it kind of restructures not just the Swiss, because that's a big deal. It's a big deal to move the United States away from double elimination events. But it's also a big deal to create environments where you have a paradigm shift. And what's the appropriate amount of buy-in for the return, the potential return?
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this: I've never had an interest in participating in foosball as a business, just because it doesn't. But I am, because of Inside Foos, and so part of that has been me applying myself in certain ways that I haven't in a long time. And when you look at a lot of things that are habitual about foosball, for example, we used to always sell foosball tournaments off of flyers. Off of posters. The poster was a poster. It got pinned to a wall. It had a big dollar figure on top. It had all the information on it. That's why everyone's still trying to sell their tournaments with flyers. It's just the digitized version of what we did in the 70s.
Right.
There's organizing a tournament and then there's promoting a tournament. Those are two different things. And what you're seeing now, without trying to, what you're really seeing now is promoting a tournament. You're seeing, you'll notice some things. We put out a flyer. There was no big dollar figure. It wasn't even really a flyer. It was a
It's
photographic
an idea
collage.
now. It's the idea of the tournament, and you've done such a great job of promoting this event and others, Mark. And you're right. Great. That's spot on. Continue, please.
Well, yeah. So I want to talk about this. Let's just talk about moving foosball into where the value proposition is so high that the price doesn't matter. So in sales, there's a maxim: in the absence of value, any price is too expensive.
Right.
But in the presence of infinite value, you could name your price. And what we're doing now is we're showing you, you want to play foosball, you want to play a lot of foosball, you want to play all the time, you want to play high stakes, you have you have an intense interest in this, you want to see what other players are saying. Let's market the tournament, let's promote it, let's show you. And we've, you know what happened when we released the entry fee? 99% of people didn't bat an eyelash. We didn't put an entry fee out until like today. And we had people signed up already without even knowing what the cost of the tournament was.
Mm-hmm.
And then you give them the cost of the tournament, like that's it. There must be other fees. Is there a table fee or is there a registration fee? No, that's it. The entry fee is $350 per person, and it's a whatever. It pays over $15,000 easily plus the packages. So, do you want to play or not? Hell yeah, I want to play. I'm going to play more foosball than I've ever played. I'm going to compete at a high level. I'm not going to have any conflicts. I'm going to play the entire time I'm there. Yeah, like for $350. Now, what people are used to doing is paying $60 for an event, for a double elimination event, sitting around all day long in hopes of winning a trophy, or maybe $80 or $100. So we're just going to shift the whole thing. We're going to we're going to set the whole thing on fire, turn it upside down, and show people another way.
Let me get this straight. So let me get this straight. Yeah. So players who generally you go to a standard tour event, you're going to spend $200, $250, whatever rating you are. You're going to play in X number of events, none of which you really have a chance to win big money, right?
Right.
In this event, you're going to spend your $350, but you can come home with $4,000. You have a chance.
You can come home, Jim. You can come over between 7. You can come home with between 7 and 10.
Jeez.
Wow.
Because in Calcutta, there's the 3 events plus the $4,000 main prize.
A realistic chance of coming home with that. That's the thing, right? For these lower ranked players, and again, of course, anyone from an amateur above right up through expert are still incredibly skilled players, right? Really high end players, but now they have a realistic chance of winning big money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get past this so we can move on, but I just want to tell you that there's Colorado State, Texas State, like I said, Hall of Fame. We need these tournaments. We need these Big Ten events. They have to happen, but we are going to show people a different way of doing things that makes absolute sense. And I'm hoping that it catches on and more people want to explore other types of Swiss formats. And I just really hope that it goes where it can.
Well, here's a quick question for you, Mark. Beautiful. I know it sounds a little strange coming, but my question would be, why not a hybrid system? Why not do something like this as a lead-in to a bigger tournament?
No, for sure. That's conversations already happened with a very prominent promoter.
Okay.
And we'll keep his name on the down low for now, but that's the idea. The idea is, why not transition this into an intermediary event that leads into the bigger event.
Right. Especially if you're doing
so exciting. Do you guys get chills like I do on this? This is exciting stuff.
Yeah.
No question.
This is great. No, this is, I've been saying this since the second I heard that this Thunderdome thing was happening. This is going to be an inflection point in foosball on the American tour. 100%. The outcome of this is going to reverberate for years.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And guys, we're fired up and we're ready for questions.
Well, we do have someone that we want to welcome to the show who wants to chime in on this issue. We do have a caller in FoosTalk Live. Do you hear us? Can you hear us? Oh, they disappeared. Well, we can always put that on hold until they get the courage to call back. Anyway,
okay. I'm guessing it was kids from Australia or the other dude. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, right.
The drunk guy from from Toronto, Canada.
Yeah, that guy. Okay, all right. Well, no, this is the reason we're here tonight. Of course, is to talk about exactly what this shall we say, the residuals of the top 50. But let's get this started.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents Ask Me Anything.
You can ask me anything.
You have to ask me nicely. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, Punk?
You have some questions for me, do you? All right, well, let's get to them.
Well, yeah, we've got some questions for you. I hope you guys are ready for this. This is actually lifted from the Inside Foos conversations that have been taking place, well, over the last couple of weeks here since the top 50 really started gaining some notice. I guess that's the best way to put this. But we want to lead off with a question that comes from England, from our number one fan there, Reese Roberts. And his point is, maybe there should be separate lists. In other words, separate top 50s for men and women. Looking at this list, there are fewer than 10 women, and I think more women deserve recognition. Jim, you want to field that one first?
No question about it. And we actually did discuss this. Should we do a top 50 men? Should we do a top, 50, 20, whatever, women as well? And we kind of came to the conclusion, at least for this individual project, that we would combine them. And really the way you look at this list, you have to, because of the different eras, different tables, etc. You have to look at the individual players and how they performed in relation to their competitor, to their competition, to their era. And that's how we took it with women. You saw Cindy Head finish at number 5 on this list based on how she did against her competition. We're not going head to head. We're not putting her against Terry Moore or whatever. And so that's how we chose to do this. But no question about it, we've had conversations about potentially down the road, and this is a project we can execute every few years potentially.
Sure.
But doing a women's list, and we have done a top 5 women's list on the show before. One of our top 5s was the top 5 greatest lady players. But it is something I think that we have considered, and certainly we recognize the importance of differentiating the two sexes and their individual competitions, and it is something we have looked at. But for this individual project, Reese, we elected to do it and sort of combine it and recognize everyone. And there were a total of 6 women on the list, and I feel like we got it right. I feel like we got the 6 greatest women, and we got them in the right order. But again, yes, down the road, it's certainly something we're going to look at.
Mark?
I think Jim handled that beautifully. I don't have anything to add. I think that's the right answer.
Adam?
Yeah, what's interesting to me about that is, and I agree with Jim. You take those 6 lady players off the list, and we have how many left that didn't make it in the top 50? They're all male players. There were 6, right? That got voted for but didn't make the cut.
Right.
And
Funny,
and it's really fascinating to me. When you think about some of the people that didn't make the cut, and I don't want to say uproar, but there was some disagreement about that, and I don't want to unpack that or dig too deep.
You can say uproar.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, because who was in that? We had Terry Rue, Trevor Park,
Mark
and
Crowell,
you're talking
Lane
that really,
Honeycutt.
and that Mark Crowell, right? And there's a person there's people that are saying him not being on this list invalidates the whole list. And it's a fascinating thing, because then you look at who we did put on, who we didn't. I mean, I don't know. This is a rabbit hole of immense proportions.
Let me address that. I want to address that.
Yeah,
Let me address that. Okay, I want to say something now. This list is a mirror. And I've said this before about social media. It's a mirror. You're not telling us, when people complain about the list, they're not telling us about the list. They're telling us about themselves. And I need people to take a good, strong, hard look at that. Because let me give you an example. If you were a goalie, you don't think there's enough goalies on the list.
Right.
If you're a woman, you don't think there's enough women on the list. If you were from the 70s, there's not enough 60-year-old white guys on the list. If you were a Dynamo player, there wasn't enough Dynamo players on the list. It goes on and on and on. If you're a narcissist, you weren't high enough. It's a function. You're not telling us anything about the list. You're telling us about you. And I'll say one more thing in this, and I only want to be kind of sensitive to this because I kind of know I'm polarizing by nature. But if you don't think women should have been on the list, keep in mind, we were intentionally vague with how we define greatness.
Right.
Without defining greatness, it drove the conversation. There's more conversation than ever on Inside Foos TV and beyond. I'm getting phone calls, I'm getting messages, the discussion.
Death threats.
If our purpose, our catalyst was to create a conversation, we were incredibly successful at it. But I will caution, this is the caution I'll have for you. If you don't like women on this list, you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself why.
Yeah.
Why don't you like women on the list? Is there something more there that you don't want women on the list? Because we have our own definition of greatness. You could have your own too and create your own list. God bless you. Go at it and go work at it. But just take a good hard look in the mirror. You realize, right, that the number one person on the list wasn't necessarily the fastest and most talented player. And we're definitely not saying that the best singles player, which probably was the best singles player. But some people are making these arguments like, why? I mean, Tony smashes that guy. How come Tony isn't above that guy? Well, we had our own definition of greatness. It wasn't just who could pound who. Cindy definitely couldn't beat everybody on this list. That's not why she's number 5. So I'll just say, when you make your comments, just be aware that I'm sitting back reading them and I'm laughing because you're telling me all about you.
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Yeah. That's heavy stuff, man. That's
great stuff. Yeah, that's really, really good.
I got to put a quick bow on that and just say this, and it goes way back to that point that you made, Jim, about that point that Trevor did not make many times. to be a champion. Rico was number one because he closed. He was always closing. That was him. Cindy Head has been closing for decades.
Yep.
And that's why she's on this list. And that makes a huge difference. And if you're peering into the mindset that we had as far as what defines greatness for us and our conversation that we had between the four of us, it's huge. And it's something to think about. And again, the mirror thing is incredibly correct and apt, Mark.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Very cool. Shall we move on to our next?
Yep.
Okay,
Please.
so David Bustos, he's got quite a long statement here, so I'll try to paraphrase as much as I can. But he starts with, I will preface this post by saying there are several great 3-bar frontman shooters not listed, and no disrespect intended at all. However, why is it that some of the greats like Toddy Maserati, Jim Wiswell, Tom Spear did shoot an awesome pull shot, and because of their phenomenal expertise, thousands and thousands of players followed with that being their shot of choice. With that being said, Tony Sprademan, Ryan Moore, Terry Moore all shot a snake, and thousands of players shoot that shot as their shot of choice as well. However, Federico Collignon is ranked number one of all-time greatest players on this list and is pretty accurate in my opinion. However, very, very few players shoot the Euro toe in America. Personally, I love shooting the Euro toe. Any thoughts as to why, Jim?
Wow.
That was a very long question. Thank you, David.
Yeah, it's a great question.
No, here's the thing, and maybe that's part of why Fred is number one. He took a shot that is not that easy to execute on a tornado table, historically, and he was able to take that shot with all of its Europeanness. Right? I'm God, that was not a good choice of words.
No,
but
I like it. It's my new ringtone.
You know what I mean. But
Yeah, I
a
do.
very European approach to the game, right? Although he certainly Americanized his game, and really as much as anyone ever has, he has a hybrid game. But he took a shot that was very difficult to execute on the table with the consistency and be able to hit all the holes, and he took it and really won 26 world championships with it on the tornado table, 4 national championships as well in America, and using that shot. No one else has. What does that tell you about that guy? About his mental approach to the game, about his dedication to training and practice and execution, and really it supports the argument for number one even more so in my opinion. And as far as inspiring other players, certainly the European audience, the European player base, very very aware of what's going on here in America. It's one thing I found out traveling around the world. They are very knowledgeable about what happens at tornado events and the tornado world in particular. So when they see their man, their countrymen, their continent men, and again another ill chosen choice of words. That's true in this one soliloquy. But they are inspired by him. They're intimidated by him when they play against him, but they're also inspired, and of course, he represents them and their attempts to be successful, because a lot of players have come over here from Europe and other parts of the world, and it's specifically from Europe with European style games, and not had success.
Right.
You had minimal success, had some, but not a lot. And then there's this guy, number one all time on our list here in America, who used a shot that is really predominant only in Europe, and was able to become that number one player. So hopefully that kind of answers your question with a couple of ill-conceived choices of words. But thanks for the question, David.
Mark?
Yeah, I'll be brief on this. It's very interesting. We got to give credit for these competitors that did what they did when they did it in their era, on their table, in their environment. And there's a funny analogy here. And I've been fortunate to talk to some great masters over the last few days. So Terry Moore is a rookie in '89, and he's a lefty, a great 5-bar with no 3-bar. And he decides to make the rollover, like he brings it mainstream, and people don't know how to block it. And no one's seen it really with how much he's using it. They've seen it, but not really. And Terry makes it a mainstream thing, and he dominates with it. And it's really a couple years before people have formative concept. Everyone's still trying to race the thing to both corners, and they don't really have a good. And people start figuring out how to block it. But Terry's he owes some of his success to being novel, bringing an entrepreneurial shot, and people not being able to, not knowing how to block it. It's not unlike Fred. Fred didn't just bring a Euro because Euro had been here. Dieter Thiele brought a Euro over here. Bentivolio brought a Euro over here. Coletta, but no one brought it over with the ferocity and the timing and the accuracy and the precision. And we really didn't see. The only time we saw a really good rollover was when Fred came over and wiped the floor with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Don Swan tried to pick up a rollover, a Euro. Remember he was trying to tap around, trying to copy Fred.
It's not like Loffredo too.
Yeah, and it's not like they didn't try, but Fred was a recipient of us not really knowing how to block even a good Euro and then a master Euro. I mean, I'm talking about a Euro pin that he was timing all the angle splits and just like ridiculous 3-bar shooting. We didn't know how to block the damn thing. I think that the time is ripe, by the way, for people to bring a Euro to someone to be at home in the garage working on a good Euro. The same way Sully, by the way, can dominate the hell out of people with their push shot. It just takes someone with the courage and the tenacity and the interest to say, I'm going to take a shot that people aren't really shooting or shooting well, and I'm going to push the envelope with it and do something new with it. There were really two novel new things in Tornado with the foosball in the last 30 years. It was the rollover, and then and this is another master this is his idea, by the way. The rollover and the walking rollover were two novel things, but novel to the American game was the master Euro, and that's what Fred brought. So someone else should pick it up and use it. It would be dominating if they used it right.
Adam?
So what we're really talking about here, and this is key to the through line for our entire list in our process. What we're really talking about is the word adapt. To adapt. He adapted. He took his style that was literally foreign to the American tour and adapted it using what he saw and learned here. And he did it to stunning effect. And again, and this is something that every time that anybody comes up to me and asks me about, I want to shoot a toe pin. I want to, this is kind of what I want to be doing. If you're going to do it, you've got to be able to do those angles and those chips that he does, because that opens up everything. And it's something that, as you've said, we just did not do. It cannot be done. It could not be done, but he did it, and he did it to devastating effect to everybody else that he was playing against. And what's important about that little nugget there of information is that when we're talking about the players from one generation to another, and how they adapt, or if they even did adapt, that also is part of our thinking as when we're doing this list, which is why I think somebody like Dave Gummerson, who adapted from when he started playing decades ago to even now, is part of what makes greatness, is the definition of greatness for me. And Collignon atop the list shows one of the greatest fast adaptations. It took him a couple of years, as Jim said, but he did it, and then he did it in convincing fashion, and he got to the point that he was so up high on the mountaintop, he's like, now what? Among other things, right? So yeah, I think everybody answered that question beautifully, and just my point is, the adaptation is such a huge part of being a champion.
Well, here's something too. One final thought from me on this. We talked about, obviously, David Bustos talked about the influence of Terry Moore and other snake shooters on thousands of snake shooters around the world, or whatever, and same with the pull shooters. But think about this: Frederic Collignon with a pin shot, with faking defenders off of holes, really helped to create the walking snake shot.
Oh yeah.
When Billy and Tony and eventually Ryan came along and other players, and really just decided to take what was really a standard rock, far side, near side, straight down the middle, like Terry Moore, and take that and adapt and make it a hybrid almost of a European style shot and a snake shot. And I think Fred is certainly responsible to some degree for that as well. One other thing, real quick. You mentioned Dave Gummerson. I'm getting off a little bit here, but a really interesting thing that I ran into today is I'm uploading the 2001 World Championships. It's the next release at Inside Foos. In fact, that 2000 World Championships, that the flashback tonight, we just released the other day at Inside Foos. If you want to see 16 incredible matches from the 2000 Worlds, go to InsideFoos.com. But I'm watching it today. I'm uploading a match today, right? And it's Dave Gummerson and Tracy Mcmillan against Don Swan and Steve Biney. And in the match, and this is early in the tournament, I say, this is Dave Gummerson's retirement tournament. He has announced his retirement after this 2001 World Championships. He's going to retire. Now, it was also the first time that Dave and Tracy ever played together. And they ended up reaching the winner's bracket final of open doubles.
Dang.
So here's Dave Gummerson thinking, this is it for me. I'm all done. I'll play with this guy I've never played with before. They do well. They finish third in open doubles. Obviously, they go on and become one of the great teams of all time. But it was really, Dave Gummerson was going to retire after that event, or at least he said he was, until he met up with Tracy. They've since gone on to, of course, to achieve incredible things, become best of friends, best men at each other's weddings, etc. So how about that? That moment, that pivotal moment in 2001, it's retirement or it's Tracy. And Dave chooses Tracy and moves on and is still playing to this day.
Yeah,
Isn't that
That's
something?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Chooses a bromance for the ages.
That's a movie.
That is a movie plot right there.
Anyway, all right, let's move on.
Love that. No, and just to put an exclamation point on this particular question, I have to say, as an outsider looking in, trying to figure this whole thing out, all I can say is that in the macro level, that there are paradigm shifts in this sport. Paradigm shifts in the sense that, let's say Terry Moore comes along with a snake shot that nobody was winning with prior to that, and people had difficulty adjusting. Paradigm shift in the sport. Then along comes the front toe with Collignon. Paradigm shift. Who's causing the next paradigm shift, and what's it going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think the walking snake was certainly one of those for sure. You know, when that came along, that certainly revolutionized the game. And I'm sure there's been other ones, maybe not huge paradigm shifts, but at least incremental ones. But I think that's probably the biggest one of the last 20
You know
years.
what? There's
And
another one. Let me tell you another one right now. So what we see it a little bit with Tony, but watch someone take this and evolve it. So the 2 to the 5, it's been around forever, mind you. Tony Bacon had won 3 world championships in open singles with a 2 to the 5. But it's not new. What Tony does, it has so many nuances to it, but his shooting with the left hand is ridiculous. Now
Yeah,
watch
great
someone
point.
take 2 to the 5 passing, but turn it into high percentage shooting with the left hand in a way that takes what Tony is doing now and pushes the envelope.
Right.
If someone can take the left hand 2-bar and start shooting lethal Ryan-esque like shooting while they're passing, we get a whole nother era of weirdness with the 2-bar efficiency.
Right.
So-
And just to put one more little thing on that, because the person that's going to do the next big breakout thing is the person that sits there and looks at what they're doing on the table by themselves in their garage and asks themselves, this doesn't make any sense. I shouldn't do this. Nobody else is doing this. And then says, screw it. I'm going to do it anyways. That's when this happens. And I've been talking to some people, and I won't say their names, that have been talking to me about what is a fascinating concept of a 2 to the 5, 2 to the 3 passing offensive series, which blows my mind. But I'm like, I don't know, like, could be done, or why not? Like, if you can really figure it out, let's do it, So I don't know. I think that's in the wings, because who knows what the next big thing's going to be.
Right, exactly. It's exciting to even think about. So our next question comes to us from Scott Tays, and this is one of my favorites. I think this is going to be fascinating, but he wants to know who is on the Mount Rushmore of foosball. In other words, what 4 people are on it? And he'd love to
we got that
hear
right.
your answer.
I think we got. Go ahead, Jim. I think we got it
Jim?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think what we've done with basically the top 5. Does that leave Cindy off the list? Let's go with 5. I think basically our top 5 is probably it. When you look at it, when you're talking about Frederick Collignon, Todd Loffredo, Tony Spreadman, Doug Furry, and Cindy Head.
Yeah.
And maybe we can carve one more face in there to bring make sure that there's 5.
Tom
But
Spear.
you certainly, and how can you? How big is this Mount Rushmore? This Mount Foosmore? Tom Spear certainly so influential as well. So, if we had to narrow it down to 4, I'm going to leave it to you 2 guys.
Mark,
I think it's it. I think that's the answer.
That's the answer.
Yeah, I don't. And the interesting thing though, I love this question because when I first heard this question, because I'm not thinking greatness of players and what they've done. I was thinking of influence and maybe even promoters in my head. I'm thinking Lee Peppard, and I'm thinking of what Currington did as a bridge in the 80s, and I'm thinking of Gary File. Now, Gary File wasn't a promoter as much, but he influenced the sport highly with what he brought as far as the passing series, the higher percentage style of play. So that is a whole another debate. But I think that our top 4, top 5 on Mount Foosmore, I think is we should pretty much get that 3D printer going.
Let me add one more thing, because the great Mike Green, who I hope he's listening tonight, got 4 masters to send me their top 10 lists. And with the exception of one, these are masters that go back through the decades. And with the exception of one of these masters, and all 4 of them, by the way, are in our top 50. With the exception of one of these masters who didn't watch at all or was not exposed at all for the last 20 years, the other 3 guys who've been around foosball quite a bit had Fred number 1 and Todd number 2. And most of our guys were in there. And I won't go through it because now's not the time. We'll save it for something else. But Fred was number 1, Todd was number 2, and they mostly agreed with everything else we had. By the way,
let me put a more literal spin on this question. Then, George Washington's face is up on Mount Rushmore. Who is the George Washington of foosball?
Oh, you want to commit complete treason and make a Belgian dude?
No.
George Washington
has to be an American, doesn't it? It has to be an American with somewhat long hair.
Yeah, well, wait a minute. George Washington wasn't an American.
Valid. Nope, that's not acceptable.
Right, he was French, right? French.
He was. Yeah, he wasn't. He was. He was a colonist, but he wasn't actually literally American.
Was he born in England?
He was.
Well, he was born in an English colony.
No, he was in the colonies, but he wasn't He was not a United States citizen. How about that?
Until the war. Until after.
Well, hold on a second. So was he born here or not?
He was. There was no here.
It was a country.
He chopped the cherry tree
there was
down.
no here.
It was a colony.
Come on.
Yeah.
No.
Come on, Mark. Read a book.
No. What do we call him? An Indian? Is he a dot or a feather?
He's a Native American.
Oh, stop.
Horrible,
Mark.
God.
Horrible.
Man.
He would have considered himself English as
Don't disrespect the sport.
Right. No.
Tom, what's your question?
No, the
Todd
question
Loffredo.
is very.
The answer is Todd Loffredo.
Right.
Oh.
Well, you know, it could be furry because furry is like it goes back a generation. And
Maybe
but by the way,
Jefferson.
Doug Furry's way better looking than Todd. I'd rather have Doug Furry's face up there than Todd's.
Oh, let me look. I've never really.
Every time I look at his glasses, though, can they chisel glasses into it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's science.
Okay. Well, no, it's who is most likely to be the first president of foosball as far as players go, and I guess Todd. I think that's a great answer. I think that works for me.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for the question, buddy.
Oh yeah, good stuff. Okay, so this one is from Mike Green, and he's actually addressed this directly to Adam, but we'll put it out to the group here. After the dust has settled, now looking back, would you guys maybe have involved a few more opinions from other people other than folks like David Gummerson?
No, absolutely not. Now here's the thing. Yeah, of course, it'd be interesting to get, if you could get a cross section of players from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, et cetera. Ideally, here's how I looked at this. Okay. Dave Gummerson, a player who started in the 70s, has really continued to play through the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and beyond. I basically started in the 70s, have covered the sport since the 90s, was a player in the 80s. Mark, a tremendous foosball fan, a historian, understands the game really well from 90 on, but also has a pretty good grasp of what happened before that, for the most part. Adam, whose father was an integral part of the 1970s scene, a fan of the game, someone who has been involved directly since 2000. I think we got a pretty good, broad perspective from 4 voters here. Who else would you think? Who else would there be that could give us that length of time, a 45-year perspective? Todd Loffredo? I don't think we could nail him down to get this, right? What other players from the 70s or early 80s understand the modern game or have an accurate perception of it? And so it's difficult to put together a group of voters who really have the overall perspective to make it, to be able to make solid judgments and not be really biased from one era or another, one table or another. So that's my answer. Is it would be tough to find more people involved. Certainly there are others who wish they were. I know Johnny Lott wishes he was a voter. Steve Simon wishes he was a voter, and others. But do they have the perspective on the modern game, or are they so anchored in the 70s that they don't have the perspective necessary to really be able to compare eras and put together a list like this?
Right. Mark?
So, the more people you add, the worse it gets. It gets worse and worse and worse. Let's start there. Secondarily, I just told you I got 4 top 10 lists, and none of them are the same, with the exception of even the top 2, Rico and Todd, are not the same. So for 4 masters, couldn't agree on the top 10. It wouldn't matter. And I just posted something on Inside Foos TV Facebook that you may or may not have seen. I posted a top 10 list of ESPN's top 10 NBA greats of all time.
Did see
And I
that.
posted a top 10 of NFL quarterback greats. And I can assure you that people will argue, these are experts, journalists, hundreds of them. And it's like you got LeBron James, no, you got Michael Jordan number 1, LeBron James number 2, Kareem number 3, Bill Russell number 4. Okay, you get the same arguments if you, depending on what your filter is. And Shaquille's number 10, right? So people are going to say Shaquille O'Neal could dunk on Bill Russell all day long, but he outweighed Bill Russell. He was like 5 inches taller and outweighed him by 100 pounds. By the way, Wilt Chamberlain is like number 6, and Wilt. So now you're going to get people arguing, how the hell do you have Bill Russell number 4? You're gonna the arguments are endless. The top 10 quarterbacks, Otto Graham is number 10, Roger Staubach is number 7. You can already hear all the Troy Aikman fans saying, "What the hell?" And the people that hate Tom Brady can't stand that he's number 1. Joe Montana's number 2. The arguments are endless. Here's the beauty of the list where we stand. And for me personally, if people don't get this about me yet, I hope they do. My ego is completely unattached. I don't care. Like positionally, I don't care. Like who cares? The conversation is what's important. People are talking. People are engaged. The list was never going to be right. It's an impossible task, by the way. I'm proud of us that we did it. Some people didn't even want to do it. Dave Gummerson left himself off the list and felt pressured and forced to put himself on the list. We all had huge issues with it. So it was an impossible task. We did the best we could, the best we knew how. It was never going to be right. It's such a beauty is in the eye of the beholder, just like greatness is in the eye of the beholder. I'm glad people are talking about it. And that's the net. People are talking, they're engaged, hate it, love it, you're talking about it.
Yep.
And that was the goal.
Adam?
Yeah, Mark, and Jim, you both have said this. I think you touched a lot on how I'm feeling about this. And as I've said, I was hesitant to do this for a lot of reasons. I didn't care what people were going to say or think about me, like any kind of personal ill will. But the thing that bothers me is this concept that we didn't do research or that we were biased. And I can tell you one thing: I have zero skin in this game. I have no relevance in the history of foosball and where it is now, outside of like my dad's connection with it. But that's completely different, obviously. So I was looking at it as a fan, but I was also looking at it as somebody that knows how to do research. Like this is my background in schooling is research and really digging deep and looking at things that from a non-biased standpoint. And what's so interesting to me about this is that yes, the conversation is important. This was a huge part of why I decided to do it. But in looking at how people present their opinion since reminds me of how much good work we actually did, because what we did is that we looked at the history, we looked at everything, we didn't look at it through some kind of biased lens of our own, and then we had a conversation between the four of us. And it wasn't easy and it wasn't fun. I don't like arguing with you people. I like all of you very much. So being in disagreement with you all is torturous for me, but at the same time we have to have our opinions and our points of view. But it's called consensus, and that is how what they call norming works, right? So many people that I saw on Facebook, when I asked them specifically for an opinion and then a rationale, because I welcome it. I welcome as much as I welcome arguing with you, Jim or Mark or Dave. Like this is what I wanted. And so often that was, in fact, the majority, that was never the case. So it made me feel even more comfortable about the list that we came up with. Is it perfect? Of course not. No, it was never going to be. We all know that. But where it's at now, and what Jim said was, I think the people that we have right now that came up with this is pretty much as spot on as it could possibly be. And I think the beauty of this is we revisit it in the next year or two.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of anything like this when we put it out there. And for the record, the people that most amaze me, especially Tommy Atkinson, who I could argue personally, I could see him in the top 10. But when it was called out that he wasn't, do you know what that guy said? He said he was just honored to be on the list.
Yeah, he did.
If there is a higher sign of a freaking champion, I don't know, beyond Tommy Atkinson. So I don't know. That guy,
it's like Dave, like it's very revealing, right? Tommy and Dave said the same thing. Adrian said the same thing. Adrian's like, man, I'm just happy to be on the list. Where I end up is like, but irrelevant. But that's not everybody. Some people,
and that's fine.
Yeah,
it is. And the one thing I bristled at a little bit was the criticism that we received for not doing research or not doing our homework. I promise you, folks,
Oh, yeah.
You know, from my perspective, I was a player in the late 70s, and I wasn't super aware of what was going on around me. I was so focused on becoming a player. 80s, I was a player, but also, you know, kind of focused on what was going on with Bacon and Horton and Spear and everyone else. And then I've been covering this sport since 1993. I have an eyeball on every great player since then.
Mm-hmm.
But I also found myself doing an immense amount of research on this, right? Looking back through the who's who and through online searches and through old videos and through word of mouth from others, you know, people who were there. And I found really, I love the project. Adam says he's a guy that thrives on research. I found myself in that same boat for this project. Despite my experience, despite my having been there, or I was there, I started playing in 1977, and you know, and have covered it since '93. I still needed to do a great deal of research. I wanted to make sure that this list was as good as we could put it together, and make sure that it could be quantified, and basically make sure there was evidence of whatever that evidence was, whether it was the eye test, whether it was world championships, whether it was longevity, all the things we've detailed. And I found it to be a fascinating experience because of that, because there was no sure way of doing this. There was no template to follow for this. And maybe basketball and baseball and football to some degree had to go through this as well. But to say that we didn't do our research on this would just be inaccurate, to say the least.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm still bewildered as to how you guys actually managed to do it.
So are we.
Yeah, right.
No, I happen to have like all these tournament guides and Foosnet. I was blessed with having a pile of memorabilia. Well, we would call it memorabilia, but this is firsthand documentation of that time period. And
Yeah,
that's
you'd call
a
your
huge
dad.
part.
You'd talk to your dad all the time.
And
It's
he
like,
he doesn't care, you know. And he doesn't care. He has no skin in the game. He's like,
You know.
well, I've shared with you some of the things he said that I won't say here, but it's like, you know, you know, those people the people that he worked with and the people that environment was something that he looked at just from a business aspect, you know, and that changes how you think about things and how you understand them.
Right.
And, you know, again, it's like, this is not about legacy. This is not about goodness. This is just about, you know, were you performing?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Pure and
I
simple.
love that. I thought that was such a great part of each week's, you know, breakdown of these players was your bringing your dad into this and giving him that perspective. Each time you did that, I kind of went back and I was living sort of vicariously through the eyes of Terry Gilson and that era. And I thought it was just beautiful, Adam. So thank you. And thank your dad for that.
And you know, I'll say one last thing to close the loop on this. I spoke to multiple masters who were either in the heat, the grind during that time, or immediately after. I talked to Don Shalafo yesterday, by the way. Ken Allwell has been a resource for me. Adrian, Scott Stewart, these other guys. Not to just sit here and talk about who I was speaking to, but guess what? They all disagree, and they'll some of them will agree partially, more or less, but no one completely agrees. No one completely agrees with everything Johnny Lott has to say. Johnny Lott, who wants to be a literal encyclopedia of knowledge. But you know what? Johnny Lott's like knowledge and experience ends pretty abruptly. Like, what does he know about the '90s? Was he even around during like the mid to late '90s? So like there's no one agrees on anything. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing I will say, and I'll get back to you. Just one last thing was the one thing, though, with those 70s players, the one thing they all did agree on was that Doug Furry was the best player of the 70s. So that was the one thing. And that's why I feel so good about him being where he is, because I think it's accurate. He was the best player of that era in the eyes of almost unanimously every contemporary and peer of the 1970s players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, let's have some fun with this next one. I think this is one of the better ones submitted, and this comes from Casey Caden, and he says, "Okay, we have a discussion about the 50 greatest players. Who can recall their own greatest match? Where was it? What tournament? And who were you playing? Doubles or singles? And 2, can you recall the greatest match you ever witnessed? Where was it? And who was playing?" Jim, I'm going to let you go on that one first.
You know, for me, I think the greatest match I ever played in, sorry, Mark, semifinal match, 92 U.S. Open, when I played Mark Rodnicki and Kevin Everson to get to the winner's bracket final. And my partner and I, Clint Coyne, who paired up 15 minutes before the tournament, a couple of experts, and just got on such a roll. We won 7 or 8 in a row against all these big names, and I get to the semifinals against Rudnicki and Everson, who were a tremendous team, and we were able to beat them to get to the winners bracket final. That was probably the biggest thrill of my playing career, my playing foosball career. The greatest match, and I've detailed this a couple of times. I'm going to give you 2 of them. The greatest moment in the history of table soccer, in my opinion, and I was there, I covered it. I get chills talking about it, was the USA versus France match at the 2006 World Cup in Hamburg, Germany. A 4-hour-long match that was just an incredible roller coaster ride and incredible drama. Some of the greatest players in the world, contrast of styles, Bonzini versus Tornado, huge crowd, which was more than 1,500 people in this old venue.
Wow.
And then the 2001 Tornado World Championship Open Doubles Final. Frederick Collignon, Todd Loffredo versus Trevor Park and Lewis Cartwright. 2 sets, 5-4, 5th game on both of them. Crowd was into every point. It was just foosball played at the highest level. We forget about how good Trevor Park and Lewis Cartwright were when they, and I got a reminder of this as I watched the 2000 World Championship, Tornado World Championships, which is now available at InsideFoos.com. As I watched that, this was a team almost expected to win that year. Once Trevor and Lewis got into the semis and then into the winners bracket final and then won the winners bracket final, you looked at these guys as this is the next great team. They did not win a championship together, and Trevor never won a world championship. But this was a great team, and this matchup between these 2 guys, this young kid out of Belgium who was just phenomenal, and the great Todd Loffredo, such a compelling matchup. And that 2001 event, the 2001 World Doubles Final, was probably the greatest match I've ever seen, certainly here, greatest individual traditional style match I've ever seen. So those 2, Hamburg and 2001 World Open Doubles Final, are my 2 biggest thrills as far as covering an event.
Mark?
Yeah, so I'll just speak to one. My story is short-lived with foosball, right? I got a foosball table in '89, and I sold it in '92. And the reason why I sold it in '92 because I graduated from high school, and I had to start college, and I wasn't gonna have a table with me when I was living in my sister's house and then getting an apartment to go to college. So this is the honest to God truth. I practiced probably 18 hours a day for a year. And my entire foosball career since then was living off that 1.5 years of practice. Everything from that, from today to the 92, when my table was sold, has been off that practice because I never practiced again. I never practiced. I never had a table. So I haven't practiced in 30 years. And so the last tournament I actually practiced for was the 94 World Championships. Now my best friend, Fernando Rosa, had taken 3rd in open doubles at the Worlds in 92. And so now he plays around, he putzes around, and the last tournament I practiced for was the 94 Worlds. And so I cheated the points book. I had a pro name that I got to 1,800 points. I had another name that was expert or novice at the time. So I played that. And the 2 memorable matches there was Dave Gummerson and Steve Mose were the number 2 seed. And Fernando and I upset them and beat them. They were up 2-0. We came back and beat them 3 games. And now we're in the pits and we're playing Robert Mars and Tom Spear to get to 5th in open doubles of the world. And it's a huge match. And that's not 90. That has to be 94. Yeah. Where were you, Jim? You weren't.
I was over on table number 1.
Yeah. So there's 3 pit tables, and so we're playing Spear and Mars, and it goes 4 games, and I had to switch and play forward, and it's a massive match, and we lose that match, and then we lose in the losers bracket, and we end up taking 9th in open doubles, and that's the last time I practiced for a tournament, and I built an entire foosball career off some mythology that I'm good at this game. I'm not good at all at this game. I'm not good at all, but
yes, you are. You are good. If you go out with a few coworkers and you say, I play foosball, you are going to mesmerize them. You are going to freak them out.
But without being self-deprecating, I'll end on this. And this is how we've arrived here. What I always had over my whole circle of friends is I had the mental toughness and just the self-determination. I was never afraid. So there's a part of me, I don't regret any of my choices, but it wasn't in the mix to continue playing foosball. So if I had a skill set, it was what held back a lot of my friends from ever being true champions, was what was going on between their ears, and that's what never got executed in foosball. So what did I just say? I have no idea what I just said. Adam,
it was brilliant,
though.
It was great. Yeah.
I don't know.
Your turn, Adam.
Oh, me? Oh, is it me?
Are you
Okay.
awake?
Yeah.
Let's see here. My greatest match ever that I played. Was that what it was?
Yeah. Greatest match you played, greatest match you saw.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the greatest match I played was when I played Rob Atha in 2002 in semi-pro singles, the Hall of Fame Classic. I was a hack rookie with the push shot. I think I was maybe even doing pull kick. It had no pass, so it was all just 5-bar shots. And I'd seen him the year before, and I don't know how, because I think the bracket was probably at least over maybe 150, near 200 players. So how I got there was probably just on vim and vigor, whatever the words are.
Vim and vigor.
I beat him for the king seat, and then he came back in the finals match, obviously, and he just throttled me. He just laid me down and slapped me around, and he double dipped me. And that's the greatest match I ever played, because in my mind, greatness is if we learn from it, and if it's something that sticks with us. My wins are meaningless compared to my losses, because it's not a chicken and the egg thing. One thing comes first, and losing comes first. That was one of the greatest bucket of ice waters I've ever experienced, was that match. And it was something that I even still now, even dealing with and I use this term lightly, trauma from losing that was something going forward in my foosball career that I had to deal with, because, and I've talked about this jokingly, but it's serious. You start getting in your head the thought that you're going to get double dipped. The second that enters your mind, you're going to start getting double dipped. That happened to me the next year at the Nationals, at Pro Doubles. Eric Dunn and I were playing Brian Terman, and I forgot who we played with, and they double dipped us. And in my head, I was thinking, don't get double dipped, get double dipped. And of course, you get double dipped when you do that. But for me, the greatest match I ever played was that, because of the importance of it for me going forward as a player. I've only recently been watching foosball a lot. I've always watched it as a fan, but was never invested in it the way that I am now. I'd have to say, even though I love that championship, the singles final at Tornado Championships last year between Sprademan and Moore, my favorite match that I've watched was Aragonis and Castillo versus Rue and Romero. I'm not only was just the level of play outstanding, but the audience participation was something that I had never contemplated would happen, when everybody wanted everybody to win. Beautiful. That just will always stay with me.
Yeah, it was epic. Hey, a quick note about Robert Atha, the man you lost to way back when. Robert Atha did not make our top 50. Didn't receive a vote, actually, on the American tour, despite having, I think, 3 top 5 finishes at the Worlds. However, if this list represented the top 50 all-time multi-table players, Rob Atha would be in the top 5.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If it was the top Filipino players, I'd probably be in the top 3.
You'd be in the top 30 for sure. Yeah.
Goodness.
Whatever.
And then Tom could do an intro for you.
Tom Robinson would be in front of me somehow. Tom's a better Filipino foozer than I am.
I don't actually have much to contribute to this, but I will say that I agree with Adam that Surgeon Sparky versus Terry and Kevin was just amazing.
That was killer. That was a great match. Maybe the match of the year. Maybe the match of the year
no
last
question.
year.
Yep. And
that open singles final, though, was pretty good at the Tornado Championship.
But you almost expect that, right? Like, you almost expect that. But this other thing was like something altogether. So I don't know. That was awesome.
And I'll also add to the list, I think at Texas State's Tony and Tommy, that singles, open singles final.
Or Tommy versus Brandon Munoz was a tremendous match for Texas State as well. Yeah.
Right? Oh, there's so many to recall, but that's pretty much all I can contribute. But so guys, there's another question. It comes from Ed Gear, but I think we kind of already answered it in a way. But he's saying that this GOAT list has me wondering, has there ever been another open singles bracket of 256 teams or more besides the 1992 World Championships in America?
Yes, there has. Back in the 70s at World Championship events, Super Doubles events, that was something you saw, and even beyond that. So, yes, there has. But on the American Tour, 92, 93, 94, right in there, that was peak times when you would get 700-800 players at the Tornado Championships, including brackets like that. That was also kind of the beginning of the package era, if you will, where if you bought a package as an amateur or rookie, you were playing open events as well. That was part of it. And that was why sometimes you got those inflated numbers in open events as well.
Now, he says that his top 10 would have included anyone who accomplished that for sure. So,
yeah. Well, hi, Ed. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah. Humble brag doubles.
Yeah, right.
But,
guys, one thing I wanted to kind of talk about, and I know maybe we have another question or two, but, there were 4 of us voting on this, right? And all our lists were a little different. There were a couple of players on my list that did not reach the top 50, even though I thought maybe they should have. And we've talked about the players who finished 51 through 56, players who got votes but didn't reach the top 50. The two players at 51, just 3 points out of the top 50. And so I kind of want to just kind of illuminate, the fact that personally myself, and maybe you guys can come up with a couple of names as well of players you thought should have made the top 50. And I don't know who I'd pull off of this list necessarily, although I can refer back to my contribution to this. But I really felt, to me, Mark Crowell, the great player out of Kansas, who was such a force on the TS Tour in the late 70s. Didn't win a world championship, but was still a contender. And when you look at the top lists from guys like Ken Alwell, Dave Gummerson, they both had him in their top 20. So I felt like he should have been in there. And then the other guy, and we talked about, should Trevor Park have been in the top 50? I don't know. He won a couple of major titles, but was in 4 world championship finals in 6 years. And in 2000 and 2001, could have won world championships, right? And the fact that Trevor finished only 3 points, basically, he finished in 51st in a tie with Crowell. The fact that he was that close, and I had him in my top 50. I had him at 49 or 50 or 48 somewhere, just based on the fact that he reached 12 major finals, 4 world finals, won a couple of finals with a couple of championships with Pappas. So for me, I would have had Crowell. I would have had Trevor Park in my top 50. I don't know. Do you guys have a couple that maybe you felt should have been in there?
Terry Rue, maybe. I felt like there was someone I was thinking about the other day that was glaringly missing. I got a bunch of crap about like players that I don't really know or heard. Like we were supposed to do our homework on Lane Honeycutt. I don't know anything about Lane Honeycutt.
Yeah.
I would totally depend on you, like Gummerson, and then secondarily you to like have
Lane
these
Honeycutt was a tornado player. So he was not a tournament soccer player. He was a tornado player on a tour that was at that time considered, I don't know, I hate to say minor league, but certainly a lesser league, so to speak, on a lesser competitive. And I know I'll probably get cards in mail for this if there was such a thing anymore. But there are a few players. Ronnie Lewis, another guy that certainly the Texas tornado players feel like should have been on this list, but the resumes just weren't there. Resumes, especially on the major tour.
Here's the fallacy the big fallacy that I'm just ignoring. One of I don't want to say anymore his name anymore, just because I want to be respectful. But this whole idea that progenitors, like the people that spawned other great players, should be elevated or recognized above the player. It's not this list. For example, should Mike Bowers be above Todd Loffredo because Bowers coached Loffredo? No, you could just keep going back further and further and further. Who was the first person to touch a foosball table? You could go back and say Adam and Eve should be the number 1 on the list because if they don't have sex, there's no Mike Bowers. And without Mike Bowers, there's no Loffredo. So it doesn't work, man.
No.
You got to at some point there's a ceiling.
Yeah. No,
right?
that's not a ceiling. That's a case of moving the goalposts to the point where you're involved, and I don't like that at all.
And the other thing is, I think we did give credit to certain people, like a Billy Assumption, like a Gary File. We gave them pioneer status, so to speak. Points for being pioneers. So I think we did factor if you're going to do that, and I think we landed in a pretty good place.
Yeah, but you had if there was a guy, my goodness, if you put Loffredo and put all the people beneath him, Terry Moore, Frederick Collignon, Scotty Weidman, just like Mares goes on. It's hundreds of people were inspired or trained or were champions because of Todd Loffredo. So it might have been Bowers to Loffredo, but like there's no comparison when you go Loffredo and the tent that Loffredo created. You just can't do that type of analysis.
Right.
Hey,
No,
I got a quick riddle for you guys. What shot did Eve shoot?
Eve.
Oh yeah, Eve. Yeah. She shot the snake.
She shot the snake shot. Yes, she did.
You guys are such huge, immense dorks. I'm disgusted.
Right? Oh man.
Oh my
You
god.
gotta the apple. The apple should be number 1 on the list though. Without the apple,
Without the apple.
Yeah.
Blasphemy.
I'm just upset that I didn't get there first. Darn it.
Yeah. That's the dad jokes. You know that.
I'm scrambling. I know, but I have a kid, I think. I'm
you do.
I feel like I should have been on top of it.
We got 6 minutes. We got time for another question? Or we...
yeah.
Well,
is there another one?
I did want to. There is one
There's
other,
so many.
and
pick out the best.
Well, there's really only one, and I'm just debating whether or not to even bring it up. But John Durden wants to know why Cindy Head is so high on the list. I mean, come on. I mean, we talked about this before. And
mirror
I
on the
thought,
wall.
yeah, no, but I thought it was
mirror.
because remember John said that he almost beat her once, and so that put her on at 5th.
Almost.
So she's 1-0 against John, and John's going to complain.
I know. I was like, that's number 5.
Again, it's all about John, and with all due respect to you, and it's about how they competed against their competition and how great they were. And Cindy Head was epically great against her competition and wasn't bad against the most everyone. And in fact, if in a best of 10 against you, John, I'm taking her at least 8 times. But that's kind of really what it comes down to. And no disrespect at all to you, John, or maybe just a little. But it comes down to how do they do against their competition. And when it comes to era versus era, when it comes to male versus female, you have to look at it that way, right? Obviously, there's the crossover. There's Tina Wyatt, Tina Roton, who also had some success, and Lori Schranz had some success, Moya Thielens against male players as well. So that factors in. But the reason that Cindy Head is at number 5 is she is quite simply the greatest lady player of all time, has won more championships than anyone, more world titles than anyone on the American tour. And that has to be recognized and acknowledged. Simply, it just absolutely. I don't think any of us have any question about her being at number 5.
No, not only that. If we wanted to get formulaic about it, we'd end up in arguments that she should be moved up on the list. We could get into arguments that she should be moved up on the list. So people are getting the framework for how we didn't intentionally define greatness, so that there was some algorithm that people needed to look at. It's not about who could beat who. Because it's not if it was about the best singles player, we might have leaned toward Tony, and he might be number 1 on our list. But and if it was about the best player in the 90s, Billy Pappas wrote this whole thing about how was Terry not higher than Todd? And I'm like, okay, dude, just like I know you started playing in like 94 or whatever, but there's more to it than just who the best singles player or who was the best player when you were in the 90s. It's not just about who the best male player is. That's not what this list is.
Right.
It's not what it is. And Cindy is at least number 5 on this list. Is all.
Yeah, I agree. And again, how much dialogue it has stimulated has been amazing and awesome. I think this is what it's all about. We need more of this across the board on every topic, whether it's foosball or not. And I think all of us can take great pride. I know, in putting together this list. No one else has ever done it. Is this the ultimate list? Is this it? No, it's our opinions. But we did it. We executed it.
No, Jim, it's the ultimate list, and we're going to put it in stone, and people are going to find it in 1,000 years. And
I
guess
ordered
what?
the Travertine.
That's right.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, if you consider this top 50 list as the money shot, I mean it's huge. If we bring back the top 5 like we plan on doing, is that just going to be dry humping? I mean, what's up?
No. We got to look at some more creative stuff. There's other things we can look at. We can look at the top 3. We really want to piss people off. We look at the top 3 people from each year.
Okay.
And we will incense people. People will lose their shit. I'm sorry for the S word. People will lose their minds because they're going to be mad. And so let's do that.
It's not the first S word you've ever dropped, Mark. It's okay. You can get away with it.
Okay, cool.
We're at 9:00 here in Colorado, which means it's 11 where Tom is, and that's fine.
Yep. Yeah, we're down to our final minutes here. So, guys, I mean, this has generated such interest, and I've enjoyed every single second. I'm just marveling at your ability to remember a lot of these things, especially at our advanced age. But it is something. It is something.
It's all made up. That's the real ruse. There's no facts. It's all made up.
But it's
Hey Tom,
future.
real quick question for you.
Yes.
What do you call a tortilla wrapped up with cheese in the middle of it and covered with sauce?
Hold on a second here. Let me just let me go back and in case you missed it the first time, let me respond with this.
Sé que el gurú del agente provocador de los adolescentes inactivos en ayunas y el
Ballsy, Tom. That's
campeón
the most ballsy
mundial
thing a white
amateur
guy's ever
de
done.
Windy
So like,
Series, Mark
dude,
Torres.
seriously, dude, you totally get your ass kicked, bro. If you were in East
Tom,
Side
you make-
San Jose, we'd beat the hell out of you.
You make me feel ethnic. You really do.
You're so leave it to Beaver. Oh my God, I'd fight you. I would fight you, dude.
Oh, guys, what a great time. What a great topic this has been. This has been 6 weeks that we've got to focus on this, and we're going to move on from it, get back to kind of normal at FoosTalk Live. But it's been an enjoyable ride. And yes, we've stirred the pot. Yes, we put together a list that could be argued. But for the most part, I feel pretty good about it. I feel actually really good about the way this list ended up.
Yeah. No matter what the response is, positive, negative, or neutral. Absolutely. Well,
And if
guys,
anybody wants to question my credentials, I would use a word that Mark would use more often, because I think that, all of us, I think, have the credentials and the credibility to be able to put together a list of this kind and do it accurately. And I think we did.
More so than that, we discussed, and that is something that is not happening. And just my takeaway from this is, if you do have an opinion, you have to proffer your rationale, put it before other people, and then have it be discussed. Because if you're not doing that, then all you're doing is something that's self-serving. And that's what this is. That's what makes what we did, I think, important, is that we open ourselves up to be hurt, and it sucks. But I think that we came up with something good.
Except for me, because I'm a sociopath that can't be injured. By the way,
No, you like your hugs.
Where was Zeke
long.
Mullins, though? I can't believe you guys didn't vote for Zeke Mullins. I had him at 32.
That dude's not real. I don't put him on list.
32.
Legendary Zeke Mullins. No, it's any parting shots before we say goodnight and we gather our strength once again for FoosTalk Live next week. But what can we part with here?
A shout out to Tom and Luke for coming on tonight and promoting what should be just an amazing event. Thanks to you, Mark Torres, for coming up with this idea, which I'm so excited about.
Shout out to everybody out there that hates us a little bit more. I love the list more now than ever. I actually like it. I liked it. Now I love it because people hate it so much, and I can't wait to just pour gasoline on the thing. So shout out to all you haters. Love you. I love you. That's all I got.
Shout out to Zoo Beer, folks.
Zoo Beer.
Don't do it.
Do it.
Zoo Beer.
It's all happening at the zoo.
Ooh, and here's to the unicorns versus the ninjas. Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
All right, take care. It's FoosTalk Live. Thanks for tuning in. FoosTalk Live is a product of Inside Foos. All rights reserved. Brought to you in part by InsideFoos.com, Protectoflex, Rodlock, 518 Prince, Foosballers the Movie, the USTSO, and Foosball Clubs USA. Tune in again next week for another episode of FoosTalk Live. In the meantime,
we'll see you foozin'.